Whoa. Okay, it looks like I'm going to try to figure out how to fix an issue. So yeah, looks like everything is backwards for some reason with this scaler. That's freaking crazy. Huh. That is super weird. Well, let's take a look here and see what we can figure out. Um, Looks like someone else has had a similar problem to this. It looks like, well, allegedly others will see the image correctly. Hmm. Well, let's go find out. I'm going to go ahead and check this thing out and see what's up. Oh, these showing correctly. Huh. Well, all right then. So let's take a look see at some of the cryptos going on right now. So it looks like it's been a pretty interesting day as far as Ripple goes. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 5-minute averages. Looks like pretty small volumes today. Um, I like to look at the 5-minute averages because it aggregates a lot more of the information together. It gives you kind of a bigger timeline. So, for example, right now we're looking at approximately the last 8 hours. So we did see this trend happen earlier today where it did cross over the moving average. Looks like it's been able to stabilize above that, so it's positive. Now if we look at the 1 hour, it's still continuing up, but we did cross back across the moving average, which could indicate a downturn. So it'd be interesting to see what happens on that. All right, let's take a look at Litecoin. Litecoin Litecoin is looking like it's doing kind of a similar pattern. It's moved up a little bit, but then it's also dropped back down for the day. I wonder what will happen as the night carries on. Let's go ahead and look at the 4-hour averages. The Ripple. Looks like at the 4-hour average, we're still seeing a negative trend. So it looks like we haven't overcame that moving average on the 4-hour. But it does look like it is reducing in velocity thanks to that upturn that happened earlier last night. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Overall, it looks like today has been a pretty positive day. Let's look at the daddy of them all, Bitcoin, and see what's happening. Well, it looks like on Bitcoin with the 5-minute averages, we're seeing a little bit of separation from the moving average, but we still have some room to go. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Let's look at the 4-hour average. These other two graphs are indications of reversal and trending. So for example, here we're seeing some positive green trending. That means that you're seeing optimistic growth, and then red would indicate that you're seeing overall decline. And the bottom is when you see a trend oscillation change, and so at the green point is when something significant happens so that you could uh, be aware of reversals. and kind of be aware of that and be able to make decisions based on that information. Another interesting thing about TradingView that they've recently added is this days range, not the days range, sorry, the buy sell analysis. I thought this was pretty interesting. We can go ahead and pull that up and take a look at some of them. And they're basically taking an average of all of the buy sell positions based on some common oscillators and the different moving averages. Pretty cool tools that are just built into the system. Lots of different methodologies, trading methodologies that are applied here. Looks like this one is a sell and a stronger sell the more we look. However, if we look at the 1 week average, it looks like it changes it over to a buy. So that's why it's important to definitely set your sights on what your time frame is. This right now would be looking at the last week. And I do believe if we look at the week, if we go here to the 1 week, we'll go ahead and see why. And the reason why is because we're kind of at the slump and we crossed over the moving average, and it is starting to look like an uptrend. So we're starting to get back in the positive direction from this very high peak that we did see before. So if you're trading for extremely long term, you're looking for 3 years, etc., it might be interesting to use this method. A lot of my trades I'm looking for more short term, so I typically like to keep the 4 hours is the maximum that I look at. I do like to look for the overall to make sure that there is not an overall negative trend that I may have missed by looking at such a short window. All right, let's take a look at Ethereum and see what's going on with the Ethereum train. It looks like they're all very common. It looks like all the top cryptocurrencies are having a similar type of pattern. They're all kind of slouching in the last few days and then starting to rise again today through the weekend. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if we have a positive increase over this weekend, see if it can maintain or if we have a cooling off. So it'll definitely be interesting. I'm going to go ahead and pull up some additional items that we want to look at in this list. This is my crazy list. I keep everything on it. This one's pretty interesting to look at. We'll look at XML. Wait, what is XML? I don't even remember what the crap XML is. For XLM. What is XML? Oh, Stellar Lumens. Yeah, that's right. Stellar Lumens had an interesting reason to be on my list, and Zcash, of course, is another interesting one. Again, we're seeing a similar trend to these other ones. Let's see what else we've seen here. Doge, go Doge, still just over half a cent. I'd like to see that one get some traction. Good old Doge. We've got Monero. I like Monero. She's got kind of a little bit more interesting. Oh, this is the 1 hour. Let's take a look at the 4 hour time frame. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, definitely Monero, one to keep your eye on. It's definitely traveling in a different direction than Bitcoin is, which is always interesting. Also, these different ones are at different exchanges. So, for example, this is at Kraken. The ones we were looking at before were all on Bitstamp. There's about 10 exchanges that are quite prevalent that I check prices on. Hit BTC is another one. Binance, Poloniex. Yeah, we'll just call those ones for now. Those are all ones that I like to check the price on. Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Okay, let's see who else. Let's look at stocks because stocks are always interesting. I tend to look at the stocks that are involved in cryptocurrency as well. So, for example, AMD. AMD makes graphics cards, which are powering a lot of the mining. Looking here at these guys in the last hour, looks like we're seeing not a whole lot of movement. We saw some decline. There was some big increases back when there was the announcement of the Spectre and Meltdown vulnerabilities. They were moving in the up direction, but now it looks like it pretty much mellowed out. I think that was some of this rise was the Spectre Meltdown type of stuff. Also, their announcement for their earnings was right around here for fourth quarter of last year, which obviously you can't even buy the cards, so that means they sold all their quantities, which means they probably did a good job of hitting their targets. But then for some reason there was a large sell-off, dropped about $1 in stock price, and now they're heading back up with kind of a little bit of stalemate here over the last day or so. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on with AMD. They've got a lot of hopeful technologies. Went and saw them at CES, and really interested to see sort of things that they're going to be coming out with this year to be competitive with NVIDIA. Again, another one really interested in is NVIDIA. NVIDIA has been over the last year, we look at the 1 week average, has been on a mission to space with their technology. They just keep releasing better and better technology, and their stock price is reflective of that as it is continually going up and up and up. They have also dominated in the graphics cards region until probably fourth quarter of last year when AMD finally released the Vega series that is competitive with the NVIDIA's high-end class of graphics. So yeah, it's really neat to see NVIDIA is continuing on this super uptrend. So in addition to that, they in their fourth quarter earnings call, they announced some pretty good things. They've obviously sold out of all of their graphics cards. They're also changing some of their supply chains. The graphics cards can be a bigger focus. They've got larger focus on machine learning. So there's a whole bunch of convergence of technology that's happening right now that's really driving this price of NVIDIA. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with these guys over the year. I know they want to release their new series of graphics cards by the end for the first quarter. That would be the 2080 series is what the rumor is that they'll be called, which allegedly they are supposed to be based on the Titan V spec, which is 5,000 CUDA cores, 5,000 plus CUDA cores, which would be just a phenomenal unit if we can get our hands on any, which puts those about 3 to 4 times faster than the current Gen 1080s, excuse me, 3 to 4 times more CUDA cores than the current Gen 1080s. So it will be definitely be something to keep an eye on. Another thing that's really interesting to keep an eye on is, of course, the Intel chips. Intel, who has been extremely dominant over the years, and it really wasn't until the last few months that AMD has had an offering that provided much competition with them. And that, of course, is the EPYC and Threadripper series. And it seems like Intel is actually pulling a page out of AMD's handbook with some of their new processors, which are being glued together, if you will, in the style that the Threadripper is, where it's just a conjoinment of 2 smaller processors, 2 8-core processors. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Intel. A really interesting thing that was announced at CES was the partnership of Intel and AMD to provide Vega graphics on a single Intel die. So it kind of marks the end of an era where Intel was trying to create integrated graphics. So it'd be interesting to see how those perform. I think those are targeted for low-level to mid-level laptops, um, and also high-efficiency battery-based systems. So I think you might see an uptick in that little partnership. So it's good to see those two manufacturers work together on two different sides of their silicon. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it can't hurt what's going to be given out to the consumer. Let's see what else in the mining can we talk about on the stock side. There's some other stocks that are interesting to watch, which I don't have listed here. One is the Bitcoin holdings, and also which those guys have been moving around. They did a stock split, and we're down to $9, and they're back up to $17 as of today, and that was pretty interesting. And then also John McAfee's company, M. What is it? It's MTI, I think, is the ticker. Let's take a look here. Oh, keyboard doesn't seem to be working on this. Anyways, his stock is always an interesting one to watch as it fluctuates up and down. I think I might have it on my crazy list. Let's take a look. Oh, it's NGTI. That's the one right there. So this one's been interesting to keep an eye on as it fluctuates with the news of different cryptocurrencies and different things that are happening with MGT. Yeah, I don't know much about their system, but I know that they invested heavily in mining, and also John McAfee, nearly every one of his tweets is about some ICO that's going to change the world. So, um, yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Let's see. Of course, got to look at Tesla. Tesla doing amazing things in the car space. Love me some Tesla. Interesting to see Bitcoin Gold kind of have that same pattern that we saw with some of the other ones. Not the straight runoff that we're seeing a Bitstamp with some of the other currencies. Yeah. Well, I think that serves as a good intro video, testing of the hardware to make sure that everything's working. So, yeah. Well, I'm gonna leave the video on, and yeah, feel free to continue to watch the near live updates of the stock market and currencies as I switch through them, and I will yeah, talk to you another time when I have a free moment or something interesting happens. We'll go ahead and leave you with the sound of the ripple, and yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you on another planet, perhaps.